Tonight, Donald Trump spins profiting off the presidency.
I'm the only president, they say, that's ever given up I gave up my salary.
While defending his public stakes in private businesses.
Somebody said, that's not very American. I said, no, I think it is very American, actually.
Plus,
every business owner, please set your thermostats to 78 degrees.
The right's new evidence of communism? Air conditioning. Also, did Donald Trump hijack America's birthday? From small crowds to chaotic pet projects, why the 250th is becoming politicized. And another worrying sign for the economy, as the U.S. added jobs at a slower rate than expected. Ditto for wages. Live at the table, Bakari Sellers, Ben Ferguson, Yemisi Egbawale, and Ashley Davis. Americans with different perspectives aren't talking to each other, but here they do. Good evening, I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Tonight, President Trump is defending the billions of dollars that he earned in his first year back in office. Here's part of that defense.
I'm the only president, they say, that's ever given up I gave up my salary.
Right.
I don't get a salary. I gave it up.
The $400,000 annual salary that Trump says he gave up is obviously a drop in the bucket compared to the $2.2 billion he reportedly made during his first year in office. Now, just to put that number into context for you, the presidential salary would have been just 0.018% of his total earnings just last year. But he is also dismissing any concerns about the more than $1.4 billion that he's made on crypto alone, claiming that he has no say or control over his portfolio.
I don't do anything having to do with my business. My kids run it. They have made a tremendous amount of money, more than I would have ever thought I would have made. And I let people invest it. I don't even know who they are. But it's given to big firms like that are on your show all the time. Mm-hmm. My son, Eric, handles it. I don't talk to him about things such as this. I think I'd be allowed to. I'm not sure even what the status is, but I don't.
In the disclosure this week, the amount of money that you and the family made in crypto, it was an outsized number. I was just asking, were you know about the crypto ventures? So that was just something.
By the way, I could know about it. I didn't.
I said. Right.
I mean, there's nothing illegal. There's nothing wrong with it. I could know.
But all of this shouldn't be a surprise. President Trump told Fortune magazine back in 2000 that it's very possible that I could be the first presidential candidate to run and make money on it. Now, before we open it up to the table here, I want to invite you, once again at home, to join the debate. Head to cnn.com/Abby, and you can weigh in. We'll get to some of your comments throughout the show. And just as this is all happening and Trump is making those comments, we also get another piece of evidence that the Trump family has extraordinary luck, let's call it that way, in the market. Plan to ease rules on mailing guns could help company that Trump Jr. has a stake in. President Trump's eldest son is a key player in Grab a Gun, a company that hopes to dominate internet firearm sales. They'll dominate it because the president looks like he is about to ease regulations on that. Don Jr. has a stake in the company. He is on the board. So, yeah, I mean, the Trump piece of it is actually just kind of a drop in the bucket compared to what his sons are probably doing.
No, I think back to 2020, and Donald Trump coined, and many Republicans coined, Biden, the Biden crime family, because of Hunter Biden. What we're seeing right now is grifting on steroids. And I want my Republican friends to just think about Barack Obama shoes, Barack Obama fragrances, Barack Obama Bibles, Barack Obama watches. Imagine Barack Obama making a meme coin, Michelle Obama having a meme coin, and then rug pulling it and making billions of dollars off of their investors. I find it hypocritical. I find it, if we go back in history, we made Jimmy Carter put his peanut farm in a blind trust. And now you have this president And I don't really feel bad for anybody. I kind of giggle a little bit because he's making money blindly off the back of his supporters who apparently don't care, which is fascinating to me.
But also not care, but also I also think that this is a tale as old as time. I mean, this starts out, remember when Grant was accused of his whiskey sales, and we had LBJ, we had Clinton, we had Biden, obviously. But the thing is what I think's different, and I've said this from the beginning, is the sons especially are doing this wide open.
Yes.
So the criticism of
It's transparent
Biden's
as it
son
gets.
as Hunter, yes,
Yeah.
was
And
that
it's
he
not
did it
selling
in
artwork,
secret.
it's not selling finger
They
art.
were just like,
And I
yeah,
give
we're
you all
going
credit
for it.
because look, they're not
Hold on,
breaking
hold
the
on.
glass.
Transparency is not a
They
justification.
are stealing
okay?
out the front door.
It doesn't mean
Just
hold on,
because
are we
you-
accusing the president of doing anything
Let me
illegal?
just-
No,
well,
we're
let me
not.
just say,
He's really good at making money and has been for a long time.
Lucky. Hypothetically, if you rob a bank and you don't have a mask on, it doesn't make robbing a bank.
Is he
less
broken a
illegal.
law? That's
He
the
hasn't
part.
broken
Like
a
he's
law.
not broken a law.
I'm saying.
He's been
my point is
successful before he
doing
became president.
something that is unethical out in the open.
What is
does
unethical?
not necessarily
Hold on, let's
mean
be
that
clear.
it's
Hold on.
right.
And I listen to what you
right,
said,
Ben?
but like I think it's awesome when people in
would it-
America
would it have
succeed.
been-
I love the
Yeah,
fact that
but
we have a president that was
Ben-
really wealthy
But
when
he's
he
not-
came in, and he keeps doing business
he's
with his
not-
family.
So
There's
you
nothing
would have been.
there's nothing wrong with
So hold
this.
on, you would have been fine with the so-called Biden crime family, if Biden had just been transparent. If Hunter Biden had just been transparent
let me give
about
you
what
a
he was
perfect
doing.
example of
Let me answer the question.
I'm gonna, you literally
what
brought Don Jr. and the guns
No,
earlier.
let me ask
I'm going
you.
to answer.
No,
I'm answering the
let me
question.
ask you.
Yes.
If Hunter Biden had just been transparent, if he had just said, you know what I'm
Burisma was
doing?
not transparent.
I'm using my
what
dad's
she's
name
asking
to
you.
make money, you would have said, totally above board. We're fine
If
with
he
it.
was
Yes?
doing actual businesses, Burisma was massive corruption. He didn't know anything about the industry. Don Jr. and guns are a great example.
What
I
does
hung out with Don Jr.
what-
at the SHOT Show
what
20
do-
years ago
what
in
do the
Vegas.
Trump
He's been
sons
involved in
know-
guns for 20 plus
What
years.
do the
and
Trump
hunting and
sons
fishing.
know about mining rare earth minerals? What do the Trump sons know about robotics? What do they know about
A
drones?
lot, clearly. They
What?
made a lot of money off of it because they actually invest in it. Let me
What
ask you
is
this.
it,
Have
Ben?
you ever looked in your retirement
What do these-
account and
what
what
do
do you
these
know
real
about what do you
estate
know about
developers-
cryptocurrency? What do you
Hold on a
know about
second.
rare earth minerals? I'm invested in all those
Ben,
things.
respectfully,
I'm invested in all
I
those
don't
things.
know-
And by the way,
I
made
don't
good
know the-
money while Trump was in
respectfully,
office.
let me give you. You asked
A lot of Americans
You asked
have.
what did he do? You asked what did he do that was unethical or illegal?
Nothing.
And I wanted to answer that just plain and simply. Because I don't know. I take hot yoga. I feel like you're doing a little yoga too for that pretzel that you got yourself in.
Dude, I love that people make money and they do it because they invest
But listen,
and they
I just
have a
want
lot of money. That's awesome.
In
That's
quarter
America.
in quarter one of 2026, Donald Trump has executed 3,500 trades. You want to know what's unethical about that?
Almost as many as
Can I-
Nancy Pelosi.
Can I? I'm glad you brought her up because it's not. It's nowhere near.
Nancy
But
Pelosi,
can I
if
finish?
you look at
Can I
her
finish real
income and
quick?
what she's
Can I
made is
finish?
way
Can I
more,
finish real quick? Because you asked.
$144,000 a year.
Can I ask? Can I answer your
Actually,
question?
No, it's not. But
And it's not.
Nancy Pelosi has.
But
they
Ben,
made
Ben,
an app
Ben,
to follow her trades because she's so good at it.
Ben, Ben, come here, come here.
She's
So
literally better than Wall Street at it.
Ben,
Just a second.
Ben.
Objectively, the amount of money is not the same. Okay,
Percentage-wise, based on her
We
salary?
don't need to fight about that. It's just not the
Nancy
same amount of
Pelosi
money.
was making how much a year and how many millions is she now worth?
Okay, but this
That's
president-
insider trading. Donald Trump walks in with $1 billion and
Ben.
it turns into
Can
$2
I
and you
say
guys
that-
are freaking
Ben,
out.
Ben,
$1 billion
Ben,
is a lot to start
Ben,
with.
to
Like
you-
a lot.
Ben, to utilize
Like a lot of money.
Ben, to utilize your phrase, the president makes $400,000 a year,
And he gives it back.
This quarter, he's made over $1 billion, 1.2, 1.4 billion on crypto alone.
That's amazing.
What I want to tell you that's unethical is the fact that when you make 3,500 trades in 1 year and you go up and you invest in a company and then you sit in the Oval Office and you tell people, wow, this company is great. This company is going to do X, Y, Z. Or you ease regulations on this company and you trade and purchase stock in that company. That fundamentally is unethical. You can call it what you want.
So should we
What
then
about,
go after Nancy Pelosi with the same vigor that you
so
just
hold
went
on.
after the president?
Let-
Because she
let-
does
let
it
me-
for years.
The Wall Street Journal has a news story tonight as well. Look, because this stuff is coming fast and furious, and as you know, Jonathan Swan, who wrote a book about this, said we're scratching the surface of this. The Journal says, in a series of trades on April 3rd and 4th, the days after Trump announced global tariffs in the Rose Garden, his investment accounts bought and sold hundreds of individual stocks, according to financial disclosures. The strategy shifted on April 8th, when his accounts only purchased 327 individual stocks, spending more than $3.6 million to scoop up Apple, Berkshire Hathaway, and other blue chip stocks. No selling that day. Trump posted on social media the next morning, "It was a great day to buy." And then he paused much of his tariff regimen that afternoon. Markets then took off. And guess what? He made a lot of money, okay? So just lots of coincidences.
And the political bubble.
Lots of coincidences that nobody believes is a coincidence because the president has the power to control with his words what markets are doing. He has the power to influence government contracts, which some of these companies have gotten. He has the power to influence foreign affairs, which also affects some of the business deals that his kids are doing. That's what's part of the problem here.
Yeah, and I just don't think it helps Republicans as a whole as they're going into the midterms, because at the same time that he's doing this with the crypto, and he called it a scam a couple years ago, I guess now he understands it and he's like good on crypto, but he hasn't signed the housing bill. Like, there are real conversations about affordability that are happening, and I think there are a lot of Republicans who would like some help in their districts and their states in pushing forward that message. And it's very hard to sell affordability when the president is reported to call the housing bill a huge yawn, and at the same time he's raking in this money. Does he want to help the party as a whole?
This is the part that really is
family?
amazing. I remember sitting on a show, and you guys were saying that Donald Trump was a fraud, and he really probably wasn't worth $1 billion. He was lying about his wealth.
Yes, exactly.
And now you guys are pissed off that he's worth billions of dollars, admitting that he made a lot of money. It's like the definition of hypocrisy.
No,
it's
it's not.
Donald Trump's not really rich.
No.
Damn it, now he's too rich. Like, which one is it?
Hold on, Ben. Hold on a second, Ben. I don't think
it is.
Are
pretty
you?
funny.
Do you know what hypocrisy really means?
When you
Because
say that
that's
Donald
not
Trump's
what it
not
means.
rich and you say he's lying when he's running, and then he actually is rich and then he makes more money, and now you're mad about it? Like, that's hypocrisy.
Here's what we're really talking about here. We're talking about Trump in 2024 bringing in $600 million from his businesses. And the very next year, the only thing that's changed is he suddenly is president. And that jumps to $2.2 billion. That's not being a good businessman. That's not playing the market. Those are games that no one is getting.
But a lot of people that went into crypto, a lot of people that are liberal, you can go to Soros's. They've made a lot of money off crypto.
I just want to be
be
really clear about what we're talking about when we say crypto. You heard in the clip, President Trump claimed that he didn't know anything about it. That we know is not true, because the reason he made much of the money on crypto is because just a few days before the election, the inauguration, he started advertising these crypto meme tokens.
Yes.
That is where he is getting the crypto money from. He personally did that. So he knows where he got that money
that's
from.
not where he's
He
getting
knows
a lot of the money.
No. That was $600 million
I know, but the real
in
wealth
crypto.
is from the World Liberty.
That is the biggest, the largest chunk of this is the $600 million from the sales of the transaction sales of the meme coin.
So
he did make a lot of money.
By the way, here's my question though:
He did make a lot of money from the world.
Or did he commit a crime? He didn't commit a crime. It's just jealousy. People are jealous that he made a lot of money.
Can I answer, Ben? So nobody is. It's not jealousy.
It is.
I'm gonna make one complete sentence, and you're not going to real quick. So it's not jealousy. What we're talking about is, and it's not hypocrisy. What we're saying, though, is that Donald Trump is corrupt and Donald Trump is a grifter. And the way that he made his money, for example, I want to talk to you about the Trump meme coin. There were 1 million wallets that have experienced net losses of $4.5 billion. It was a rug and pull. Like, that is what it was. The Melania meme coin. If you invested $10,000 in the Melania meme coin at its height, you now have 90 cents. So it's not a genius move. What we're saying, though, we're not saying, oh, my God, we're not saying don't go out and be rich. I love Mark Cuban. He's done great work. And go out and make your money. What I am saying is, though, if you're going to grift on the back of your supporters, like, if you're okay that it's transparent, or that
why is approval rating 90% among Republicans?
Let me read a quick.
If this is really what it is, then why do Republicans support him more than any other president that's a Republican?
We just got a comment from one of our viewers who's watching right now. They say, Where is the Senate and Congress? I can't believe the silence.
They're insider
Please
trading,
do
that's right.
something.
Yeah.
Where is the
They're
Senate
insider
and
trading.
Congress?
This is actually their own
Yeah.
problem, and I think that's something we should talk about, is the insider trading bill or the stock trading bill, whichever one you want to call it, that's actually very bipartisan, which started not just with Nancy Pelosi, but Republicans as well. Congress won't pass it. So
No,
they're
because
able
they're
to do
getting-
the same thing, and they're making the same
can I ask
law.
you-
So
can I
I
ask-
actually think
Nancy
it's-
Pelosi
but
will never let
let
that
me
happen.
Well, you know,
I
it's
wanna say
hold
something.
on. But can I just on that point?
Yeah.
That insider trading bill stalled, and you're right about that. And one of the things about it was that it actually exempted the president and his family from the same rules that would have bound members of Congress. I think what the viewer is asking about is why on earth should that be the case? And I think that's a legitimate question.
Well, first of all, whether it's the case or not, I don't think anything's ever going to happen because of it. And also, I think one thing that I do want to clarify. The president himself is not sitting there making these hundreds or thousands of trades that were just commented on. Someone else, every president, every member of Congress, every staffer, you put your financial interest in a blind trust. They're the ones who do it.
But that's
also,
not accurate, though.
yeah, you do.
But
He's
no.
not sitting there
But let me
making
just tell you why
trades.
it's not accurate, just real quick. And then
Okay,
you can finish
yeah,
your thought. Because you have 4,500 trades from this president of the United States.
That he's
do you know how many trades, portfolio, whatever, Joe Biden made? Zero. Do you know how many trades Barack
also
Obama
didn't
made?
know he was the president.
Isn't
Do
that
you know how many?
illegal?
Do you know how many trades Barack Obama made? Zero. Do you know how many trades George Bush made? Zero.
But it doesn't-
I also
but that
don't
doesn't
think.
matter.
I also don't
Hold on,
think
Donald
that it's
Trump made
enough
zero
to
trades.
say.
Yeah, Donald
I don't.
Trump
Hold on.
made zero
Listen.
trades.
He made zero trades.
Listen.
It's against the law for him to trade.
I have investment accounts. I don't manually make trades myself either.
Right.
It doesn't require you to manually do trades. I don't think that absolves the president and his family and his associates from questions about whether the moves that were made on his behalf were done with information that was non-public. And I think that we may never know the answer to that question, but when you look at the list of evidence, that's what is raised here. In the same way that you raise questions about Nancy Pelosi that are not informed by any knowledge that she knew anything and acted on it, I think people are making those same they're making those same connections when you see not just the trades, because the trades are just a small piece of it. It's also getting on the boards of these companies and then the companies getting
No bid
defense
contracts.
contracts. That's what we're talking about
bid
here.
defense
Okay.
contracts.
My
Because
point, though, is
Here's
that
what I'll
they're
say.
doing
If
this.
you want
the
to
crazy part is-
apologize
rein in
for it,
Congress
right?
at the same time,
No, we wanna-
let's bipartisan
I think
do it. That's fine.
everybody
But
should
I
be
think- but
reined in. I
this
think
is
most
picking and
Americans
choosing.
would
And by the way,
agree
when
on
you have
that.
$1 billion when you
Yeah.
come into office, you got that because
Okay.
you're pretty good at business.
Listen,
Sure it is.
Anybody that banks
everyone would agree that everyone should be held to the same
House
standard in
always
terms of
wins,
this stuff.
except Trump.
Not just the president and not just
He's
Congress.
bad at business
All
on a
right.
deal.
Next for us, a big question for America is conserving energy. Communism now. The right is slamming Zohran Mamdani's request to New Yorkers, despite Republicans having a long history of doing the same. Plus, more rain on America's birthday parade, while Democrats say the donors were duped by a Trump-backed 250th group. We'll be right back.